Okay, all you YouTube devils out there, how you doing? Sam here with you. Friday afternoon, the 21st of February, and we're going to get into some analysis here just in a second. But before we do, if you'll allow me to indulge for a second here, I'd like to share with you something that, well, we've talked about coming for quite some time. We finally have it launched now, so TradeDevils.com is up and running and functional. And I just thought I'd give you a quick run through here. So partly because a lot of people have been writing us saying, wait, why is there no content coming up on YouTube anymore? And to a large extent, that's because we've made access to our community free, right? So now all of the video content is being offered through the site. It's a little bit of a variation of what we've done previously, but we wanted to keep that all self-contained. So while we will continue to post here on YouTube for our subscribers, which we appreciate, I think what you'll find here is more of an overview, and then deep dives, intricate analysis, trade analysis, all of that's going to happen over on the site and within the site, within the community. But since we made that free for you, all right, that's I think the advantage there for you guys, you'll get early access. But this is the third video I've done today. Members got it much earlier. But additionally, we've made the white belt available. So those of you that are interested in improving your trading skills, and if you're drawn towards our methodology, well, the white belt, which by the way is very full featured and not easy to pass, that is now available to you for free. So I thought I would just reference that here and then speak to a little bit to people that are writing us saying, what happened to all the YouTube video content? All right, so we will post here, but it'll just be slightly a different format here. So now if you're over here now, no longer a landing page, now it's just TradeDevils.com. You can come over here, and of course you can join our mailing list. You can get on the free plan as well here. I'm just, so right, you can buzz through the site yourselves here, but just to give you a quick overview here, there's some more information about us, a little background. A lot of people are curious about me, like, why does this guy ever show himself? Well, partly because, to be perfectly honest with you, I find that little picture-in-picture of the guy talking on the microphone, it just annoys the hell out of me. Like, well, why do I need to see that, right? All you're doing is taking up screen space. But, so a lot of people like to see that, right? So if you want to know a little bit more about us, about me, well, here you go. Here's all sorts of information. There's me. There's one of my partners here. All of our senseis are over here. If you're interested in a little bit about us, here's all the plans and pricing, right? Again, free to join, right? Free, right? So all you have to do is just select this, right? Then you'll enroll. You'll get details about how to join the Discord. So very easy to do. It's simple. We've had a lot of people that have kind of been waiting for this, that have all just piled in recently. So it's very active. But of course, we also have our social membership and the educational membership. And you can, as we had it on the landing page, you can come over here and just kind of read through and look at the little check boxes as to what you'll have access to in each of those associated programs. But the big kicker here, in free, you've got access to the Discord. It's not full access to the Discord, right? We make a distinction between educational, social, and free members, but you will get some access, and more meaningfully, you'll get access to early release of any of this analysis video, and then you're also going to get access to the live stream. So that's the big change here. We're going to a live stream format, so it's more interactive. It's not a one-way conversation. I can interact with members, free or otherwise. So it's all about making the learning experience as engaging and rewarding as possible. So if I'm just talking to you through video, we think there's a better way to do it. So by allowing you guys to engage with us in that. It's almost like a webinar format, right? So where you can chat, ask questions, we can bounce around, look at different asset classes, all within the context of our methodology. We just think that's a better way to teach and a better way for the student to learn and engage with the instructors. So that's the biggest change that you'll see here. Again, we will still post over here, but it won't be the same as we've done for the last couple of years, where we were posting really detailed analysis on a very regular basis. The deep dives, that will all be internal, and we'll still put some overview things up over here. So again, lots of information for you to read here, and it looks the same, but now you have the opportunity to participate. Okay, so I think that covers everything we're doing here. So with that, one thing I would show you here is, so if you're in, this is me logged into the site. So this is what your landing page will look like. So you'll have a dashboard, you'll have access to our live streams, and then any analysis that we're doing, right? Of course, we release it to the members long before we put it on YouTube. So here's access to the white belt course. Here's our most recent analysis, the Discord setup. Very easy to do. right? And then we've got some other things that are available to you if you're interested in day trading. We've got a full suite of NinjaTrader tools that we custom built, custom wrote for the way that we trade into the futures market primarily, although you could trade anything with them. Right, so all of that here is for you as well. And then let's go back to my dashboard here, but particularly the white belt, right? But not only the content, but the test as well is all available to you over here. And there's a lot of content here, and the test is not easy to pass. So challenge yourself, right? If you're interested in developing your skills, this is a good way to get started and see what you're capable of. All right, so with that, all of that said, there's 5 minutes. Whoop. Trying to do it in 3. Okay, let's get over to the Bitcoin chart. Okay, so I have 2 counts here. I've got a primary and let's think of it as bullish and bearish almost. So this is my primary here, and this is the count I've been working with really for the last month or so. I think the last update we did was a couple of weeks ago. So the count here of the impulse off of the low has not changed dramatically, although the last time we were posting, there was some question mark as to whether or not we were actually going to get the pivot here. It turns out we do. So there's a count here that supports the idea that we've got a completed impulse. All the subdivision works. Elliottians may differ a little bit on the subdivision here, but to its strength here, there are multiple ways that we can get this impulse to complete. So we have a valid impulse here, but we're not really to the point to where we're deep enough to where you could really confirm, okay, 1 is in, we're in the process of the 2. And I'll show you for a couple reasons. One, if I just work off of this last little pivot here, right, well, you'll note that if I get right here, this pivot, well, note here that we've come from this low, trading view, come here. From this low pivot, I've come down, I've hit an exact 50. So you can't, you've got to realize there's a potential here for this to go and take out that high, right? So remember, an algo doesn't care about the Elliott count. So it's just here's a dominant to dominant. We're coming right to a 50, and we got a reaction. Now that doesn't mean, right, of course, as I try to remind you as often as I can, that does not mean that we must go up here, right? This could just be a pivot, right? So some software kicks in, starts the buying, but we could roll here and then just easily roll right over. In fact, per the count, that's pretty much what we're expecting. That there would be a deeper retracement. If indeed the 1's in, this would be an unusually shallow 2, right? Not that it's not possible, but again, if we look from the pivot low on the proposed pivot of the wave 1, you know, it just doesn't quite look like it's finished. So if this were to start moving higher, I think rather than plant the 2 here, I think what you're likely to do is now work backwards through the count, and I think perhaps we're moving the 1 here and looking at perhaps an extension in the 5th. It's a little early to go there. I don't think we need to just yet, because I think that until we see this break this pivot high, we don't need to go there yet, right? Because this all looks like with the reasonable count here to complete, it looks like we're just in the middle of correcting this. So pretty reasonable case that what we've done so far is just the ABC of a W here, given the depth of that retracement from the pivot high. That's a reasonable location for an X. So if we're just getting started, if that's the A and we're working on the B, then something like that would not be surprising at all. Would give us a completion here of a WXY, put us in the context of where we'd anticipate a wave 2. Now it's hard not to notice this, right? that high volume node, right? So if we just pull it over, right, we can see what that's tied to as the market stuttered here. So if we're going to come back down to something like that, you know, that's just that's like a magnet, right? The market will notice that, right? Traders will know that. Large players will notice that. That's a reasonable place for some size to get hidden. So that's something to be watching for, right? But you know, we've got a couple of them down here, and of course we've got another one here just ahead of the golden zone. So those are areas to look for where you might anticipate a reaction. But no reason to go outside of what you would normally anticipate here, given the completed impulse, and we're working on that retracement. And you could do a couple of things here. You could grab a channel, put it on that, look for, you know, that gives you some guidance of time. Now, nothing says we have to stay right within that, but it's just a way to use a little of the market's geometry to guide us down to where we might anticipate the next reaction. And then again, note, I'm just wicking off kind of major. Let me pull this off now. I mean, obvious areas of structure where we might anticipate a reaction here. Now, this is untested. This was tested here. Well, here's a perfect example, right? Here's the structure. Up, we bounce on it, so prior resistance becomes the support, right? So we're kind of seeing the same thing here. So these are areas to pay attention to, which is why I wick them off and I leave them on. I want to see if the market responds again as we come down and test those levels. Now, ideally, they're in sync with some of these high volume nodes. We're not quite seeing that here, but I would still keep those noted here as potential pivot zones and pardon me, potential support zones as it was prior resistance. So something to watch for. So I think there's a little bit of a hurry up and wait here. I don't think we're right at the time to where you've got to be looking at this going, whoa, I better get long. You know, of course, it's possible, right? We could be there by tomorrow. I mean, just you never know with Bitcoin. But that just, as a technician, you're just rolling dice there. I mean, you have no. Right now, the odds would imply that there's more correction to come. So I would be cautiously kind of keeping an eye on this, as I'm sure most crypto traders do. I'd be watching this, looking for some signs. And either way, if we come down here, you know, if for an Elliottician, you want to see that complete, then you're much more confident. I still wouldn't be trying to pick the absolute turn. I'd look for a reaction, and then on a smaller degree, well, here I am on a 2 hour, I'd be looking for the first little retracement, so that if I got something like that, well, I can use the prior pivot as my stop, right? So if I got something like that, then maybe we're getting started in the 1 of the 3. But remember, if this is the 2, if indeed the bull is going to be realized here, we're coming down for the 2, and we're in the process of putting the 2 in, there's a monster 3 on the way, right? So you don't have to worry about, oh my God, if I don't get the turn, I'm going to miss the whole thing, right? It's not likely to go straight, right? Bitcoin rarely does. Now, we could get something substantial, but first you want to get a motive, right? You want to confirm it. Give me a motive off of some sort of significant pivot here. If I've got that, then on the retrace, right, and you don't know how big that's going to go, right? The retrace could be something like that. But at least confirm it rather than try and be a hero and pick the lows. Just no need to do that, right? The risk is too high. So here, now you do have to be prepared for this if we're going to pivot here and we're going to go up and break this pivot, right? So let's look at a couple of scenarios. The first being that you'd be recounting here on the assumption that the 1 was still not in, as we just talked about, right? So you'd be counting this and relabeling it, likely putting the 1 here, 2, 3, 4. But of course, then we'd be looking to make sure we don't get wave 3 being the shortest. So, you know, there's a lot of yet for the market to reveal to us before we can really lock and load on a count. Right now, it's, you know, as I said in the other video, it's kind of a tease, right? So it's just revealing itself slowly here. So you don't want to jump on anything because the market will, you know, as is the nature of trading, right? So if it looks like it's easy money, if it looks like it's going, you could almost be positive that's kind of bait, right? So don't be suckered into something like just because you got a big bar here, right? So I mean, you can see it right here, right? So we're going, and then immediately rejected. Right, let the market reveal itself, and then wait for your pitch. Right, wait for the trade to set up the way you like it, and just don't FOMO. There's no reason to FOMO here. All right, it's just we can't ignore it. We got to just pay attention to the bearish count here. So on the idea that you could certainly make a reasonable case here that we've got an A, a B, and a C that's come into that pivot, and now we're in the process of starting something more bearish. Can't eliminate it now. I showed this last time we looked at it. The reason for that, right? So as we had talked about, if you're going off of the low, this is the 50 in log scale from the low. So a bull looks at that and goes, well, you know, right? So you note here, right? So from the low, right? We looked at this in log scale here at the 50. Well, and there's just a great example of coming to that high volume node here, and we got it to the tick, right? So it's a magnet for the market. Then we come up, we get that reaction. It's not that the market stays here, right? But you could just see that because it was tied to prior structure. So up we go off of that. So if you're going to lean into the idea here in log scale, I've got a 50, so the 1, 2 is in. Well, you got to pay attention to the fact that in log scale from here to here, we just went right to the golden zone. Right, so you can't have it both ways. You can't be 50 in log, oh, that's good, but for this, no, I'm taking that out of log because I don't like it as much. Right, that's selective analysis, and that will get you in trouble. So as you'll note here, I have I have alarms. Well, let me take it out of law. So I have an alarm here on the other side of this golden zone. So if we get through that, I want to know, because then I can start to discount the possibility here, because we will have broken the sell side algo from this side. Right? Once we get there, then we're in the clear. Right? Until we break that, that's still the resistance. Arithmetic or log, right? That is still the resistance, right? And it's also the pivot, right? So we can see here the pivot that we bumped into. So we can't ignore it, right? Just got to be prepared for it, because if we start something all of a sudden like that, when you're like, hey, oh, I didn't expect that. It may not be that it may be that you didn't expect it, but at least you know where we are and what's likely happening, right? If we start to come down. All right, there am I, 15. All right, let's just take a quick look here. Let's get my. We'll look at see if we have time for it here. I'll try and keep these less than 30 minutes. So most of the alts, right? So if you look through the top 20 alts, almost all of them have a similar pattern. The exception is there's a distinction between what we're seeing in Litecoin and Ethereum, as the Litecoin looks like we've completed here, and we're in the process of a WXY. That looks pretty reasonable here if I zoom in here a little bit. So the count, yeah, this is a little tricky down here. I think you've got to go from 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to go into the 1 here, into the 2, 3, 4, 5 to get us to complete the first impulse off of the low, and then that would fit with what we've seen here. Now, one thing to note here that's just a great example of just the confluence of the market. So whether we're looking at whether we're looking at this as a channel or a trend line wouldn't matter here. So let me put this back. All right, so to make the point here, it's so pivot to pivot to pivot. That's just perfect, right? Just perfect confluence in the market. Now, to add to that, because I always try to remind you, you want more than one technical component. So if I just work off of my absolute low, so look at this confluence here. As we come down and hit that trend line, we are hitting the 38 to the tick. So you can kind of, say, all right, well, so okay, well, it's just not like we've never seen a wave 2 at a 38. It'd be a little unusual. I mean, it's 12% of wave 2s only make the 38, but that's 12%. So I'm reluctant to put it there just yet, because if it's a WXY, which seems to make the most sense, then if the X is in, then this is just the A, the B, and then we're looking for the C to come down and give us something closer to the 50, where we know the higher percentage of wave 2s are found retracing from the low. But same idea, right? So what if we start to go here? Well, then, we're back here kind of, well, I'm on a 12-hour here, so we can probably dig an ABC out of that, but then you're back, there's the trade, right? So if we start to go, if we take out this pivot, again, I wouldn't FOMO into anything, but if I come off of this and I get a motive wave, well, now if I get a retrace, I'm really, thinking that there might be something there, and maybe we will end up with a 2 here. I think that, again, it's always just about probabilities, guys. I mean, that's all we ever get. Probabilities is that we're not done here, right? So if that's the case, then you'd be anticipating that it's going to break this trend line. See, this trend line, if I just put it, let me just redraw it. All right, so off of the 2, so it's just traditional Elliott channeling, right? We're connecting the 1 low to the 2 low, and and the 3. Did I get that? Get my wave 3 and my wave 2. There we go. There it is. Okay, bring you back. There. Okay, so traditional Elliott channeling. So we're just connecting the 2, the 4, and the 3. So we get a little throw over here. So since the extension's in the 5th, that's not surprising at all to see the throw over. But it looks like ABC into the X, and now we're working through the ABC. So here, I'd be really paying attention. And then, of course, you can kind of, that gets my eye. Again, structure here on the 3rd, even here. A little structure here to be watching for. But I want to see what happens next time if we are going to challenge this trend line. If we get through, all right, well, then you might be doing something like this, where we'd clone this and bring it down here, right? So we still are working with the geometry the market has given us, but now I'm thinking A, B, C to get me to my wave 2, where I'm more confident. I still, depending on your skill level and your comfort level and your risk tolerance, I don't know that I'd try and pick the turn, but if I got a reaction there where I could get into something where I could be tighter on the stop, then something like that to get me started. Because note where we are. If that's the 2, well, the 3 is a long way up, right? So we'd be looking for the 3 way up here. Right, if we're going to get a 1618. So no need to FOMO. Again, same thing, right? Don't get suckered into that, right? That's if it looks like, oh God, I got to hurry, I can promise you that's usually not the time to run into a trade, right? If you miss a turn and something goes, then you wait patiently for the next retracement. That's what we would advise you, right? We're retracement traders. We're not breakout traders. So if I miss something, that's okay, right? Show me a swing that has not retraced anywhere in any asset in any time frame. Well, I know people are going to say, oh, look at the S&P, right? But there's always, at some degree, there's retracement, right? Look at what's happening right now. There's always a retracement to come, right? That's the one thing that's inevitable, because the human nature, just the desire to take profit is just overwhelming to the shorter term traders that catch a pop like that. That's what causes the retracement. Human nature. It's all it ever is, right? Fear and greed, fear and greed. Okay, so there's ETH, right? I think that gives you a fairly good idea, or pardon me, Litecoin. Let's take a quick look at ETH, because this is one of the few that was a little bit different in terms of its potential count. So working off of the idea that we've got the very, well, here, if I go all the way back out here, I don't think we need to worry about the subdivision here. Just at this point, we can simplify. Let's call it a WXY into the low. So I've got something impulsive, obviously, that's come off of that pivot down here. So we can just work the WXY. Well, this count, there's a reasonable count here that has us completing just the third, not the entire impulse. Unlike so many of the other alts, it looks like you've got a reasonable case here that the 4 is still going in, and we're, rather than the 2 as we're seeing in so many others, and that we're just in the process of putting the 4 in to go get the 5. Let's get that out of there. All right, so if this is, whoops, let me get back here. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Looks like we're going for the 4. So this, are we A, B, C here? It's too soon to call it. Now, look, given the depth of that retracement, there's a reasonable candidate here for a flat. Now that's a little running flat, maybe, but it's a little early to call that pivot in and say, oh, there it is. I've got a running flat with a very short C. Seems unlikely, and not to mention I don't have a great subdivision. There's not much subdivision here. I am on a 12-hour here. But I think what's more likely is that we're still working through the correction, so we know the high probability zone here, so this would be an ideal location for it. Right, so this little nugget, bring it over here to the 38, right? The prior 3-4. I know that's a mighty skinny 3-4, but look, we got a nice little high volume node over here. So something like that really looks more appealing to me in terms of the next trade setting up, for the 4 and the C. If we can catch that here at the 38, now you got to look left, right? So what else is there? Well, of course, right, it's not too hard to spot that, right? So if that's the X of the Y, now you start to put some pieces together. So same idea. If it's A, B, well, it looks like maybe 1, 2, 3, we're going to get 3, 4, 5, something like that to get us down here to get the 4. Nice big high volume node here, right? This is our high probability zone for the 4. So certainly could bury some size there, which sets up for the 5. There you go. Okay, so as I said, right, so if this kind of skill set, right, let's call it a skill set, right? So if this kind of a technical approach to the market is appealing to you, then we think the fastest way to learn this is the combination of going through the educational content, the testing that we put you through to be sure that you've internalized it and that you can apply it, and then, unlike this format, moving to that live stream where I can interact with students provides the best learning environment. That's what we're after, right? It's not about us demonstrating our skill or our trading. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to teach. So what's the best way for us to communicate the skills and enhance the learning experience? Through a lot of feedback from members, we think the live stream is going to be a big enhancement to the way that we're communicating with you. So I just remind you that, right? So if you're interested, again, it's totally free. Just come on over here, right? So here's the white belt, right? You can see all the bits that are in here. I mean, it's a lot of having just re-recorded all of this and freshened up all the examples and all of the content, which took us a while, right? So this took me a good amount of time to redo all of this content. It'll challenge you, I promise you that, right? So if you're interested in that, like I said, it's free. Okay, guys, there you go. Obviously, right? These are other options for you. If you look through this list here, if you want to really get after it, well, come on in. It's the educational, right? If you're not quite ready for that, well, this is a nice stepping stone. So it wouldn't be unusual to take the progression from free to social to educational. Okay, guys, there you go. You guys, I hope you got some value out of that. Love to see you over on the site and in the Discord. Until then, you guys have a good week.